You think so? The idea that one book will help market the other is a folly. One thing I would say is series. Like, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I feel like if you're a debut author, I almost feel like you're almost like shooting yourself in the foot when if you're a debut indie author and you release your first book is one in a series of books. Because I feel like the vast majority of people, especially when it comes to like debuts or indies, is they'll read like book one and I mean throw myself in that. I've done that multiple times where I've only read the first book in a series. Now, it's not to say that I'll never return to the series at a later time, but like I read a lot of indie. So for me personally, everybody is different. But for me personally, because of my intent behind the reason why I read indie, I'm trying to read as much indie. There's so much indie out there. So for me, it's like standalones. Not to say that I won't pick up a series, but odds are I'm probably only going to read the first book from your series. It's going to be a one and done for me. I might not read your entire trilogy, or if I do, it's going to be spread out. I'm not going to be reading your whole series back to back to back. I just got so much on my plate. There's way too much on my plate for me to be able to do that. Not to say that not all readers are like that. But yeah, for me, I think best way to go in terms of marketability, standalones. Definitely standalones, or maybe some collections. However, there are people, I know a lot of people are biased against short story collections and anthologies and stuff like that. I'm not. I want to read more of them. Being a short story writer myself, I like anthologies, I like collections, and I actually want to start doing writing editorials on those. And I think that's a great way to kind of get a little sample of many different writers that are out there proactive in the scene. But yeah, series, I think series it's dicey. Let's put it that much. It's dicey. Thomas goes on to write. He says, I agree with you about the series. I was saying that the idea of one book being the money making help to market the next book is not a smart business. Yeah, I mean it's based on a lot of assumptions for sure. The assumption being that your first book is actually going to sell. I think you were talking about that when I was on your podcast, and you were saying what the average sales for indie authors like less than 30 books or something like that. Have a marketing budget. Yeah, and where do you do it though? You know what I mean? That's another thing. There's so many different ways or places out there that are like, oh, you can market your book with us, and when is it just like turns into you're just flushing money down the toilet? Because the one thing I think is kind of an indie author folly is having a crap ton of overhead too. Going into it, having all this overhead. And I think that, one thing is like, do we really need to give the technocrats more money than they already have? Going out here, boosting your post, promoting your posts on Twitter, and giving these technocrats, because for one, it's a rigged game. I think it's folly. I think that's nonsense. Why? Because it's a rigged friggin' game. They control the algorithms. So if they can literally, because mind you, say I have over 1,000 people that quote unquote follow me on Twitter. Okay. And when I look at the analytics, it's like my posts reach maybe 20 people, if I'm lucky, So it's like it's a joke. They rig the damn game, and then they expect that's going to provoke you to reach into your wallet and start giving them greenbacks just so you can be noticed. Like, how sad is that? To me, I feel like that's kind of depressing. It's like I have to pay people money in order for me to just be seen. It's like I think that we should be able to just put in effort. I think that's why I try to promote this message of being proactive, reaching out to people, not being afraid to talk to people, because it's all online anyways. It's not like, to a certain degree, you can just take all this online stuff with a grain of salt, it's not to say that you can't take it seriously and take yourself seriously and take your work seriously. Definitely stand behind your product as far as that goes, to be taken seriously. But as far as this whole online stuff, like, we should feel comfortable as creators. Like, we should feel comfortable to just go ahead and interact with each other online. Because if we can't do it with the internet, then how are you ever going to be able to, how are you with people in real life? He's an overwriter. So I always write and think and dream in series. And people can write whatever you want. Again, I don't want to take away from the dream. If you're looking at it as in terms of making money, I can only speak for myself when I say I'm not inclined to read an entire series by an indie author, or really any author for that matter, whether it be trad pub or indie. But there are plenty of people on BookTube that would do something like that. So there are people who, like, that's why I say there's roles in this. Like, it depends how many hats you're willing to wear. Like me, like, I wear a lot of hats. Like, I'm involved in a lot of different things. So I kind of, like, I guess I kind of spread myself thin in that way, to, like, for me, it's just a time constraint thing. Like, I want to read a lot of different indie authors. So in order for me to cover a lot of different authors, I can't be spending a whole lot of time, because I already don't have a lot of time for reading as it is. Like, in other words, I don't spend a lot of time reading. I'm more of a mood reader. But when I do read, I want to make sure I'm tackling books that are in my TBR list. So I got my TBR list is always growing. So I want to try and give as many different indie authors a chance as possible when it comes to my reading. Because when I do read, then you guys know that I turn around and I'll take the time to use my reading, and then I process that piece of work. Like, reading for me is very much a process. I don't just read the book and then I'm done with the book. Oh, that was a cool book, and I put it away. Like, reading is a process. I've turned it into a whole process, and it's intertwined with my whole creative brand, if you will, what I'm doing. So, like, not only will I read the book, but I want to give the book a fair shake, give it time where I can sit down, reflect upon what I've read, and then use it to inspire me to write something, and then work on my writing as far as writing editorials and stuff like that, and giving critique. So that's what I mean. But not everybody's like that. So there are readers out there. So it's not to say that, I'm saying you should do this, you should do that. Thomas goes on. Thomas says, Marketing 101 says, begin with a brand and establish that brand of your missions, morals, and purposes. People connect with that. Marketing in the form of advertisement. Goes on to say, think of a publicist. They will help you spread your brand in the best way through interviews and giving you a mission. Plus, the landscape is changing too with social media. So I feel like there's definitely a lot of room for critiquing or talking about public relations in terms of the indie scene, because there's definitely some folly there, but perhaps I'll save that for another stream.